Hello everyone, and welcome back to Games in the Attic. I'm your host, the Tominator, and thanks for tuning in. So, Nintendo's 2021 E3 Direct. I watched it, fully expecting to be disappointed again.
And as someone who's never really cared about Smash Brothers or Mario Party, I pretty much was. Then this happened, and my head nearly fell through my body and out my arse. But I quickly regained consciousness when I realised I hadn't played a game in the 2D Metroid series in over 10 years.
Fuck.
And I thought lots of you might be in the same boat, but unlike me, you might have a life.
Fuck.
And don't have time to have a 2D Metroid marathon. So I thought I'd play through the 4 main 2D games again and hopefully get you up to speed and ready for when Metroid Dread hits the shelves this October. This is Games in the Attic's Road to Metroid Dread. Let's start at the beginning. Metroid released in Japan for the Famicom Disk System in 1986, then a year later for the good old NES, and is, in my opinion, one of the top 10 NES games of all time. Top 5 for me, and if you disagree then you're wrong! Combining the jumping from Super Mario Bros., the shooting of Contra, and most importantly, the exploration of the original Legend of Zelda, Metroid was a game like no other of its time, even starting its own subgenre of video game called Metroidvania, a combination of Metroid and Castlevania. Though Castlevania only adopted the Metroid format in 1997 with Symphony of the Night, so really the subgenre should just be called Metroid. So if you've played and enjoyed any of these games over the years, just know we have Metroid to thank, and the Metroidvania style can be traced all the way back to the very first game in the series, Metroid for the NES. I don't want to go too in depth with the story here, so let me just give you the abridged version. In the year 2000, in the history of the cosmos, whenever that is, a couple of space chads get together and usher in a new age of peace and prosperity across the universe. Then, some mad lads, known as the Space Pirates, show up to troll everything the galactic space chads do. This back and forth carries on for a while, then the Space Pirates capture a Chad research ship carrying a deadly lifeform known as Metroid. Scared that the pirates will use this new lifeform against them, the Space Chads begin a desperate search and find the pirates' headquarters known as Planet Zebus. Unable to penetrate the pirates' defences, they decide to send in a space hunter called Samus Aran, because he is the greatest of all the space hunters. So, you push start, and just like that, you're playing the game. Now, Metroid has one of the greatest opening sections in all of gaming, with no in-game tutorial, no annoying fairy, or long drawn-out paragraphs to read. Metroid teaches you how to play by simply letting you play. It's 1986, it's a 2D platformer, so what are you going to do first?
You're going to push right.
Yes, that's right, very well done class. You then press B and find out you can shoot enemies and open doors. Good, but then you reach this part and discover you can't go any further. So what do?
You go back to see if there's anything you've missed.
That's right, you go back all the way to the very start thinking, there's nothing here, this is where I started. Oh, what did that do? Boom, right there, you've successfully learned how to Metroid. Metroid is all about exploration. There's no levels, only interconnecting areas, and no set path you have to follow to complete the game. As long as you beat the 2 mini-bosses, the first being Kraid and the second being Ridley, you'll be able to shoot their statues and enter the final area of the game. But before you do any of that, you're going to want to power up first. Scattered around the game are various power-ups for Samus' suit and arm cannon, like energy tanks which increase your health by 100 points, rocket upgrades that allow you to carry more rockets, the Varia suit that halves all damage taken, the high jump boots, pretty self-explanatory, and everyone's favourite power-up, the screw attack, which allows Samus to spin and attack enemies whilst in the air. The more upgrades you find, the easier the game becomes. Next you have the arm cannon upgrades, like the long beam that extends the range you can shoot, the wave beam, which is the most powerful, and lastly, the ice beam, that is absolutely required to kill the Metroids and beat the game. And while it may look simple on the surface, Metroid will still leave newcomers dazed and confused, which is understandable because Metroid does have its fair share of cryptic NES, Nintendo power, how was I supposed to know that nonsense? But once you've dived into Metroid's darkest depths, uncovered its secrets, fought the Balrog, and gone on this transcending spiritual journey, you'll seem like a fucking wizard to those just venturing in. So you kill all the Metroids and the Space Pirates leader, Mother Brain, make your way back up to the surface and complete the game. and if you've completed the game in under 5 hours, Metroid will blow your mind and reveal that you've been playing as a girl this entire time. And if you start a new game straight away, you'll get to play as what we now call Zero Suit Samus. Thick. But if you can't be asked to complete the game to play as Zero Suit Samus, just put in this code and you should be good. And that was the first game in the series, a timeless 8-bit classic up there with the best of them. But if you'd prefer to play something a little more up to date, then check out the remake Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance. And if you have a Wii U lying around, dust it off and boot that sucker up because it's the best and cheapest way to play Zero Mission. Zero Mission, in my opinion, is one of the greatest remakes of all time. Updating the graphics, adding save stations, the ability to crouch and shoot diagonally, more boss fights, plus it has an in-game map with waypoints, and is one of the few remakes I'd advise playing over the original. It's that good. Right, Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Surprisingly, the second game in the series released 5 years after the original in 1991 for the Game Boy. What's more surprising is it's just as good as the original. The only thing holding it back is that it's on the Game Boy's non-backlit 4.7cm screen, which can make navigating the game pretty hard because everywhere looks the fucking same. So grab a map for this one, and maybe a 3DS too. And when you take a look at the map, you'll say to yourself, holy ice beams, Batman, this is on Game Boy? It's bloody massive! With even more to do than the first game. It even introduces upgrades that will appear in almost every Metroid game to follow, like Spider Ball, Space Jump, and Spring Ball. The story takes place where the first game left off. Deciding the Metroids were too much of a threat to be left alone, the Space Chads send another research ship to the Metroid's home planet, SR-388. Sounds lovely, with their mission being to completely eradicate the Metroid life form. But things went tits up for the research team, so the Chads once again call upon Samus Aran for help. You start out by your ship on the surface of SR-388, with 39 Metroids to hunt down and kill. Once you've killed every Metroid in a certain area, the game will shake, letting you know a new area has opened up. While being more linear than the first game, it doesn't really feel that way, and finding your way to the next area can get confusing, because new areas are blocked off by pools of what the manual calls dangerous liquid, with no indication that they're different from any other pools of dangerous liquid in the game. So that pool that you mindlessly jumped over in Area 5 is actually the entrance to Area 7. So once you're done killing the Metroids in Area 6 and the game shakes, you have no clue where to go. And without a map or guide, you'll have to luckily stumble across the next area. And that's my only complaint. Besides that, it's one of the best games for the original Game Boy and is probably my favourite original Game Boy game of all time. The amount of content on offer here is astounding. Exploring the game for weapon and suit upgrades is incredibly rewarding, hunting down and killing the Metroids provides plenty of challenge, the addition of save stations takes almost all the frustration out the game, and it truly is as good as, if not better than the home console original. Okay, the final boss is a pain in the dick, but just make sure you have the screw attack, which protects you against the Queen Metroid's projectiles. Then shoot a rocket into her open mouth, and while she's stunned, morph ball into her mouth, roll down her neck into her stomach, and set off a few bombs. Do that a few times and you should be good. As you make your way back to the surface to complete the game, a baby Metroid hatches out of an egg and follows Samus like a confused child. And Samus takes it with her to hand over to the Space Chads for further experimentation, which sets up the next game in the series. Oh yeah!
Here we go!
Super Metroid. The link to the past of the Metroid franchise. It took everything that was great about the first two games and made them super, perfecting its own format in such a way that to many still has not been beaten. And it has arguably the best opening sequence on the Super Nintendo, and it's something that's seared into my memory, mainly because it absolutely terrified me as a kid. The story once again picks up where the last game left off, with Samus delivering the Metroid lava to the Chad space station. Mere moments after Samus leaves, she receives a distress signal from the space station and goes back to investigate, where she fails to stop the leader of the space pirates, Ridley, from stealing the Metroid. She then follows Ridley back to planet Zebus. And now, with the power of the Super Nintendo, the Metroid universe starts to come to life. No longer confined by the measly 8 bits of the previous consoles, Metroid could finally stretch its legs and show us just what it was capable of. Metroid became the sci-fi horror shooter it was always meant to be, and is one of the first times I can remember being genuinely frightened playing a video game. Okay, by today's standards it seems incredibly tame, but for 1994 this shit was horrifying. Not knowing what awaited you in the next room filled me with, no joke, absolute dread. The music is eerie, suspenseful, foreboding, broken only by the appearance of a boss that would love nothing more than to kill ya. Planet Zebus this time around is a character in itself, dripping with a strange extraterrestrial atmosphere. You'll guide Samus through the jungles of Brinstar, then to the volcanic hellscape that is Norfair, then onto the wreckage of an ancient spaceship that crashed long ago, and then to the absolute dumpster fire that is the underwater world of Meridia with all its fucking quicksand. I also love that it includes the opening section from the original game, with you even collecting the Morph Ball in the same location. Gameplay is the same as the previous two games, only taken to the next level. Now there's super missiles, power bombs, a grappling beam, a speed booster, and a rather snazzy gravity suit allowing Samus to move freely underwater. On top of that, we also get classic power-ups like the Varia suit, high jump boots, space jump, and of course, the screw attack. But one upgrade you absolutely have to get is the X-ray scope. Kneel before its glory. Use an old school guidebook, magazine, YouTube video, online guide, whatever you have to do to get it. Then you'll be able to find almost every secret in Super Metroid using nothing but your own wit and determination. Because Super Metroid has its own in-game map, showing where you've been, and if you find a map station, it will reveal the entire area you're currently exploring. And with plenty of save points dotted around the map, you never really have to worry too much about losing your progress, so explore away. It also has some new techniques to learn, like wall jumping and shine sparking. And to those of you who ever got stuck in this pit with the green dodo and didn't know how to shine spark out, I feel your pain. There are 4 main bosses that you need to defeat before you can gain access to the final area. Once defeated, the orbs in the boss statue will break and you'll fall through the floor where you will find the entrance to Torian. And, like the previous 2 games, ice beam the Metroids, then hit them with 5 rockets. All's going well until a giant Metroid comes out of nowhere and drains you of all but 1 HP. But strangely allows Samus to continue. A few rooms later and we find ourselves back in front of Mother Brain again. Blast her to Kingdom Come once more and complete the game. Oh shit! Mother Brain was actually a giant McChicken nugget all along. So Samus fights her best fight until Mother Brain hits her with a whole bunch of gay pride. Then, just when Mother Brain is about to deal her final blow, the giant Metroid from before swoops in to save the day. It's then we realise that this must be the Metroid that Samus brought back from the end of Metroid 2. And it drains Mother Brain of all her gay pride powers. It then begins to restore Samus's health when Mother Brain comes back to life and kills the Metroid, which falls to its death. But not before transferring Mother Brain's powers over to Samus. Now, Samus, proper livid, hits back at Mother Brain with all the gay pride she can muster, and finally defeats Mother Brain once and for all. Then, in true Metroid fashion, you're given a time limit in which you must get back to your ship and escape the planet. So, Planet Zebus is destroyed, Samus escapes, and one of the greatest video games of all time comes to an end. And gamers would have to wait 8 long years for a sequel. Which brings us to Metroid Fusion, released in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance. So, I guess the Metroid pattern goes home console, handheld, home console, handheld, home, handheld, console. What is this thing? It's a Fusion! First thing to note is that Fusion is very story driven, so let's start with that. Samus is back on the Metroid's home planet SR388 because she apparently hasn't done enough already, and she's escorting another research team. With the planet now free of Metroids after the events of Metroid 2, a new nightmare has been allowed to thrive and take over the planet, the parasitic organism known as X. When Samus first encounters X, it attacks her but doesn't have any immediate effects. On the way back to the research team's space station, Samus falls unconscious, her ship crashes but luckily ejects her just in time, and she's sent back to the Galactic Federation's headquarters, aka the Space Chad's hometown. Feeling a little under the weather, with her body and parts of her power suit completely infested by the X-parasite, they surgically remove large portions of the power suit. With Samus near death and at their wits' end, they decide to inject Samus with Metroid cells cultivated from the Metroid that imprinted on her in Metroid 2. The vaccine kills Parasite X and saves Samus's life. Fused with Metroid cells, she is now immune to Parasite X, but, like the Metroids, is weak to ice. Samus returns to the research team's space station next to SR-388, with a new suit, a new ship, and a new adventure ahead of her. And the first thing you'll notice is that Metroid Fusion is far more linear and story orientated than Super Metroid. The new ship's AI tells Samus exactly where she needs to go throughout the game, pinpointing the location of her next objective on the map. While this takes out the exploration aspect that the series is known for, I think making Metroid more streamlined for the Game Boy Advance was a good move, and Fusion still has the great Metroid gameplay we've all come to love, and is still plenty challenging in the final third of the game. Now up until this point, the Metroid games have taken most of their inspiration from Ridley Scott's Alien, but Fusion and Parasite X are more like John Carpenter's The Thing, infecting and controlling their host from within, with X even managing to infect the removed pieces of the power suit, creating the main antagonist of the game, SAX, or Samus Aran X, which patrols certain parts of the game Terminator-like and is a bitch to get away from. Power-ups like energy tanks, bombs and missiles are the only ones that can be found through a little exploration, with the main power-ups like the Morph Ball, Charge Beam, Varia Suit and Wave Beam being acquired through a boss fight and then absorbing an X-Parasite. None of the main power-ups can be missed, as they're required to progress to the next part of the game. So, you fight your way through 6 different sectors of the ship, regaining all of Samus's trademark abilities until she's powerful enough to face off against the SAX. Then, you enter the restricted lab and find out that the Federation have a secret stash of Metroids, Larval, Alphas, Gammas, what the actual. The Metroids then attack the SAX, triggering the lab to eject itself from the space station and self-destruct, which Samus narrowly escapes. Samus finally discovers that the Federation have been secretly breeding Metroids for peaceful purposes, which Samus of course calls bullshit on. Next, we find out that there's actually more than one SAX, and that the Federation have been sabotaging Samus's progression in order to save and study the X and SAX fucking chads. So Samus, in her infinite wisdom, decides to blow everything up again. Her ship's AI, who's been a bit of a knob this entire time, finally comes around and starts to help Samus, explaining that blowing up the space station won't be good enough, and that she needs to alter the space station's orbit so it collides with SR-388, completely wiping out the X-Parasite. On our way back to the control room, we finally face off against the SAX, which then turns into this, and when defeated, the X flies away. Samus changes the space station's orbit and legs it back to her ship, only to find that her ship is gone and an Omega Metroid waiting for her. After having her health completely drained, the SAX shows up but is quickly reduced back to its base form, allowing Samus to finally absorb her final ability, the Ice Beam. Using the Ice Beam, Samus destroys the Omega Metroid, her ship shows up in the nick of time, the space station collides with SR-388, and once again, Metroid ends with an explosion, leaving our hero safe to fight another day. And not only is the Wii U the best way to play Metroid Zero Mission, it's actually the best way to play the entire series, with it only missing Metroid 2 for Game Boy. But if you have a 3DS, not only can you download the original Metroid 2, Return of Samus, but you can also download the 3DS remake Metroid Samus Returns, which was released in 2017 by the same studio that's bringing us Metroid Dread. I cannot fucking wait.
So that was Games in the Attic's Road to Metroid Dread. I hope you had some fun, I hope you refreshed your memory on the 2D series so far, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Games in the Attic.